I want to start with a simple question. Why is it that some people, no matter how many times they fall, keep rising while others stay down after the first hit? It's not about talent. It's not even about opportunity. It's about training. Not the kind you do in a gym, but the kind you do in your mind. Let me tell you a story. A young man once asked a successful entrepreneur, "What's the one thing I need to do to be rich?" The millionaire smiled and said, "You need to think differently." The young man replied, "That's it?" The millionaire nodded. "Yes, because your mind is either your greatest asset or your biggest liability. We've been taught to work hard. But millionaires, they train themselves to think hard before they work hard. You see, the millionaire's mind doesn't chase money, it attracts it. Not because of magic, but because of focus, clarity, discipline, vision. So let me give you 3 shifts to train your mind like a millionaire. Most people are trained to survive. Millionaires are trained to expand. Where others see competition, they see collaboration. Where others fear failure, they see feedback. They don't ask, what if I lose? They ask, what if I learn? Training your mind like a millionaire starts with choosing abundance. Every day, even when you're broke. Especially when you're broke. Before anything meaningful can be built in the outer world, it must first be built in the mind. That's why the first and most important investment isn't financial, it's mental. Long before a person earns their first significant income, launches a successful business, or closes a major deal, they've made an internal shift. They've chosen to develop a mindset that supports growth, possibility, and long-term success. This mindset doesn't just appear overnight, it's trained, refined, and reinforced over time. Most people focus on strategies, tactics, and resources. They believe that the right job, the right market, or the right contact will unlock success. But the truth is, even the best opportunities will be wasted by someone with the wrong mindset. Without the right perspective, fear dominates, hesitation wins, and self-doubt becomes louder than vision. People with an untrained mind find reasons not to act. They obsess over what could go wrong or convince themselves they're not ready. As a result, they stay stuck not because of lack of ability, but because of the way they think. A trained mind, however, operates differently. It recognizes that growth requires discomfort. It understands that failure is not a verdict, but a teacher. It sees each challenge as a puzzle to solve, not a wall to avoid. When faced with uncertainty, this mindset doesn't freeze. It adapts. It asks better questions. It seeks solutions. It looks forward, not backward. Investing in your mindset means becoming deeply aware of your thoughts and consciously shaping them. It means catching yourself when you drift into scarcity thinking, believing there's not enough time, money, energy, or opportunity, and challenging that narrative. It means practicing patience in a world obsessed with speed. And it means learning to trust your process, even when the results aren't immediate. A millionaire mindset isn't just about confidence. It's about clarity and control. People who train their minds learn to respond rather than react. They choose focus over distraction, discipline over impulse, and vision over comfort. They understand that success is not a sudden event, it's the result of thousands of small, intentional decisions made over time. What sets high achievers apart is rarely talent alone. More often, it's their ability to stay mentally strong when others fold. When problems pile up, they don't take it personally, they treat it as part of the path. They don't waste energy blaming the market, their past, or other people. Instead, they take ownership. They ask what they can do with what they have right now. That mindset, that sense of agency is what keeps them moving when others give up. Training your mind also means choosing your influences carefully. It means consuming ideas that stretch you. It means surrounding yourself with people who think at a higher level, who encourage possibility rather than limitations. When you upgrade your thoughts, your life begins to follow. You stop making decisions based on fear. You stop shrinking to fit the expectations of others. You begin to operate from a place of purpose with a calm conviction that your efforts are building something that matters. And perhaps most importantly, a trained mind is one that believes in its own ability to grow. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be willing. Because the person who believes they can learn, adapt, and figure things out will always outperform the person who's waiting to feel ready. So before you invest in a business, in stocks, in property, or in anything else, invest in your mind. Develop the habits, beliefs, and mental strength that success requires. That investment will pay dividends for the rest of your life. Most people are raised with a scarcity mindset. From a young age, they're taught that there's not enough to go around, not enough money, not enough opportunity, not enough time. This belief shapes how they live. It teaches them to play small, to compete for scraps, and to guard what they have, even if it's not much. Scarcity tells people to avoid risk, to hold back from giving, and to distrust growth that seems too good to be true. It says, be careful or you'll lose what little you've got. But those who operate from a mindset of abundance think and live very differently. Abundance says there's more where that came from. It tells you that opportunity isn't a one-time event, but something you can create. It tells you that success is not a limited pie where your gain means someone else's loss. It reminds you that creativity, kindness, and value are renewable resources, and the more you share, the more you grow. When you look at how millionaires think, one of the biggest differences isn't just how much they earn, it's how they view the world. They see possibility where others see limitation. They see potential in people and ideas and markets and moments. They believe that with the right mindset, the right work ethic, and the right focus, they can build something valuable and keep building. They don't cling to what they have out of fear. They leverage it. They share knowledge, they invest in others, and they look for ways to create more rather than protect what's already there. Abundance changes the questions you ask. And if asking, can I afford this, you ask, how can I afford this? Instead of wondering if you're good enough, you ask how you can grow into the person who's ready for the next level. It shifts your focus from limitation to potential. And that shift is powerful because we move in the direction of our dominant thoughts. Scarcity causes people to hoard time and energy. It leads to jealousy when others succeed. It encourages playing it safe, staying silent, saying no to big chances because the risk feels too great. But abundance is generous. It celebrates others. It shares freely. It knows that giving value only increases your capacity to create more. An abundant person doesn't feel threatened by someone else's success. Instead, they see it as proof of what's possible. This mindset doesn't mean being naive or careless. It's not about ignoring the reality of setbacks or pretending everything is easy. Abundance is not blind optimism, it's strategic belief. It's the conviction that effort, learning, and persistence will lead to more. It's the understanding that failure is not an endpoint, but a step in the process. When you operate from abundance, you're more resilient because you know that a closed door doesn't mean the end of the road, it just means it's time to find a better door. The truth is, abundance and scarcity are not about your bank account. They're about your perspective. You can have millions and still live in fear of losing it. Or you can have very little and still walk with the confidence that you can create more. Abundance begins with belief. It becomes a habit. And eventually it shapes your results. The more you embrace abundance, the more opportunities you begin to notice. Your conversations change. Your decisions shift. You stop asking if there's enough for you and start asking how you can contribute, grow, and expand. That kind of mindset opens doors not just to wealth, but to purpose, relationships, and fulfillment. So if you want to train your mind like a millionaire, start by choosing abundance. Believe in growth. Believe in creativity. Believe that what you need can be created, and that helping others do the same doesn't take from you. It adds to you. That belief will change how you think, how you act, and ultimately how you live. In a world obsessed with speed, playing the long game feels almost countercultural. We're constantly bombarded with overnight success stories, quick wins, and instant gratification. Everywhere you look, someone is going viral and making fast money or promising results in 30 days or less. But the truth that most people don't see, because it isn't flashy enough for headlines, is that real success, sustainable success, is slow, steady, and intentional. Millionaires understand this. They know that wealth, influence, and impact aren't the result of a sprint. They're the reward for those who are willing to play the long game. The long game starts with patience, but it's fueled by purpose. It means being willing to delay immediate rewards in exchange for greater value down the road. It means resisting the temptation to cut corners just to see fast results. It's about building with depth instead of just speed, choosing quality over quick fixes and substance over surface. It's about doing the hard work even when it's not yet producing visible outcomes because you believe in where it's leading. One of the biggest differences between those who succeed long-term and those who burn out early is how they define progress. People who play the long game don't expect every action to pay off right away. They understand that growth compounds. Just like investing money, investing time and effort into your goals may not give you immediate returns, but over time, the effects multiply. The problem is most people quit too soon. They abandon their vision because they mistake slow progress for failure. But slow progress is still progress. Playing the long game also means making decisions based on future value, not just current comfort. It requires you to ask yourself not what feels good right now, but what builds the life I want to live 5 or 10 years from now. It's choosing to study when others are partying. It's saving when others are spending. It's building skills that take time to master, trusting that your future self will thank you for the effort you're making today. The long game demands consistency. And consistency is often underrated because it's not exciting. It's not glamorous, but it works. Whether you're building a business, investing in your health, growing a relationship, or developing a craft, The ones who succeed are not always the most talented. They're the ones who keep silenced. They keep refining, keep learning, and keep going long after the motivation fades. Millionaires are not obsessed with appearing successful quickly. They're focused on becoming valuable permanently. They don't rush into decisions that offer quick wins but compromise long-term outcomes. They think in decades, not days. They ask, will this matter in 5 years? They structure their time, their money, and their money, and their energy around goals that outlast temporary feelings. When you play the long game, setbacks don't destroy you, they develop you. You learn to view failures as data, not disasters. You don't get discouraged by where you are because you're anchored to where you're going. You trust the process because you've committed to a bigger vision. Success built slowly is success that lasts. You don't want to rise so fast that you skip the lessons that protect your future. You want to build something solid, not just something shiny. The world may not applaud you while you're laying the foundation, but it will notice when the structure you've built stands firm while others collapse. So don't rush your journey. Don't trade long-term gain for short-term applause. Make peace with the pace. Trust the timeline. Keep showing up. Because in the end, those who win are rarely the ones who started fast. They're the ones who refuse to stop. One of the biggest myths people believe is that they need clarity before they take action. They wait until they have the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect feeling of certainty before they move forward. But in reality, clarity doesn't come from thinking, overanalyzing, or waiting. Clarity comes from doing. It is through taking action, imperfect, uncertain, sometimes messy action, that the path begins to reveal itself. Millionaires understand this truth deeply. They don't sit around waiting for inspiration or a guarantee. They move. And through movement, they discover what works, what doesn't, and what to do next. Most people get stuck in a loop of hesitation. They want to be sure before they start. But the truth is, you can't think your way into clarity. You can't map out every step of a 10-year journey from the starting line. No book, no course, no mentor can give you the kind of clarity that comes from experience. When you act, even when you're unsure, you create momentum. You gather real feedback. You learn what feels right, what aligns with your strengths, and what needs adjustment. That is how clarity is born, not from theory, but from experience. Action has a way of cutting through the noise. When you're stuck in your head, fear tends to take over. You imagine the worst-case scenarios, the criticism, the failure. But the moment you take even a small step forward, something shifts. You gain evidence that you're capable. You see what's actually in front of you instead of being paralyzed by what might go wrong. That shift in perspective is everything. It builds confidence, and confidence fuels the next step. Millionaires and high performers don't have all the answers when they begin. They just start. They launch the product, make the pitch, write the first draft, or send the first email. They don't wait to be completely ready because they know readiness is a myth. No one ever feels 100% prepared. But the act of starting is what makes you more prepared than standing still ever could. When you act, you get real data, real feedback that tells you what to tweak, what to strengthen, and what to drop altogether. Taking action also separates you from the majority. Most people live in the realm of intentions. They talk about what they want to do, plan for it, even fantasize about it, but never cross into execution. Those who do, even imperfectly, immediately put themselves in a different category. Not because they're smarter or more talented, but because they're willing to move without full certainty. Clarity is not a prerequisite for action, it is the result of it. The first version of anything you create won't be perfect. The first pitch may be rough. The first step may lead in a direction you later adjust, but none of that matters. What matters is that you started, because once you start, you have something real to work with. You can pivot, you can improve, and you can grow. But none of that happens without action. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You just have to trust that each step will teach you something you couldn't learn by standing still. That's how clarity works. It meets you on the road, not before the journey begins. So if you're waiting for perfect clarity before you begin, stop waiting. Take the smallest possible step forward. Make the call. Write the page. Launch the idea. Say yes to the thing that scares you but excites you. Because action isn't just about results, it's about direction. And the more you move, the clearer your direction becomes. Life will always test you. Challenges, setbacks, criticism, and surprises are part of the journey, especially for anyone aiming for big goals. But the difference between those who thrive and those who struggle often comes down to one choice. Do you react or do you respond? On the surface, the difference may seem subtle, but in practice, it defines everything. Millionaires, leaders, and high performers understand this deeply. They train their minds not to react impulsively, but to respond intentionally. Reactions are emotional. They come fast, driven by fear, ego, insecurity, or habit. Reactions are what happen when you operate without pause when something happens in you. Immediately lash out, shut down, panic, or overcorrect. In that moment, you give away your power. You let the situation take control of your behavior. And often, when the dust settles, you realize you didn't handle it the way you could have. You said something you regret. You made a rush decision. You focused on the wrong thing. Responding, on the other hand, is a conscious choice. It's the space between stimulus and action. It's the ability to pause, observe your thoughts, regulate your emotions, and choose your next move from a place of strength rather than stress. When you respond, you're not ignoring the situation, you're simply not letting it control you. You're leading your thoughts, not following them blindly. That ability, that discipline is what separates reactive minds from resilient ones. Millionaires aren't immune to pressure. They're not free from conflict or uncertainty. But what sets them apart is how they handle it. They don't let frustration hike their judgment. They don't let fear dictate their strategy. They take a breath. They look at the big picture. They ask, what's really happening here? And what's the best move I can make now? This shift in approach creates better decisions, stronger relationships, and a reputation for calm leadership. Responding rather than reacting is also a sign of maturity. It means you're not just a passenger in your life, you're the driver. You're not controlled by your environment, you shape it. You don't let someone else's bad mood, poor judgment, or mistake pull you off track. Instead, you choose your posture. You decide your tone. You respond in a way that reflects your vision, not your frustration. This mindset extends to every area of life. In business, reacting can cost you money, partnerships, or opportunities. In relationships, reacting can break trust or create unnecessary conflict. In your personal growth, reacting to temporary emotions can make you quit something valuable too soon. But when you respond, you stay aligned. You operate from values, not just emotions. You make decisions that serve your future, not just your feelings in the moment. Of course, responding takes practice. It takes awareness to catch yourself in the heat of the moment and say, wait, let me think. It takes discipline to not answer every insult with a defense or every problem with panic. But over time, this ability becomes one of your greatest strengths. It builds emotional intelligence. It strengthens your focus. It creates trust in your leadership because people can see that you don't lose your center every time something goes wrong. You may not always control what happens to you, but you always control how you show up in response. That control is a superpower. It puts you in the driver's seat no matter how wild the ride gets. So train your mind to pause. Practice the space between impulse. Everything you build in life, your career, your wealth, your relationships, your legacy starts with one thing, your mind. It's not your bank account, your degree, your job title, or your network that determines how far you go. It's the way you think, the thoughts you allow, the beliefs you reinforce, the habits you create. Your mind is your greatest asset, and yet it's the one most people overlook or underinvest in. They'll spend years mastering skills, chasing credentials, or trying to impress others without realizing that none of it matters if their mindset is working against them. The mind is where everything begins. Your decisions, your reactions, your goals, your confidence, it all stems from how you think. If you train your mind to seek problems, you'll find them everywhere. If you train your mind to seek solutions, opportunities will start to appear. The difference between someone who thrives and someone who stagnates is often not intelligence or luck, it's how they've shaped their inner world. Millionaires know this. They don't leave their mindset to chance. They invest in it like a business daily, intentionally, and relentlessly. When your mind is strong, focused, and disciplined, you become unstoppable. You stop waiting for permission. You stop needing validation. You trust yourself to take risks, to adapt, and to figure things out as you go. That inner confidence isn't arrogance, it's the result of doing the mental work. It's built through reading, learning, journaling, reflecting, and surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to grow. It's the result of choosing long-term thinking over short-term comfort and vision over distraction. Your mind is also where self-sabotage lives or dies. An untrained mind will talk you out of your dreams. It will exaggerate fear, focus on what could go wrong, and convince you that you're not ready. It will replay every failure and magnify every insecurity. But a trained mind doesn't fall for those traps. It notices the negative patterns, rewrites the story, and leans into growth. It recognizes that fear and doubt are normal, but it doesn't let them take the lead. The most powerful people in the world have mastered their minds long before they mastered their industries. They've learned to sit with discomfort, to regulate their emotions, to find clarity in chaos. They know that the real competition is not with others, it's with their own limitations. That's why they protect their thoughts. They're intentional about what they consume, what they believe, and who they allow to influence them. They don't feed their minds junk and expect excellence to come out. They treat their thinking like the engine of their life because it is. Think about it, your mind interprets everything. The same event can crush one person and motivate another, depending entirely on mindset. Two people can have the same setback, but one sees a dead end, while the other sees a lesson. Your mind controls your perception, and perception is reality. When you realize this, you stop trying to control everything outside you and start mastering what's within you. A strong mind creates a strong life. It doesn't mean you won't face hard things. It means you'll be equipped to handle them. It means when others break down, you break through. It means you'll keep moving forward even when results are delayed, because you've built resilience from the inside out. That resilience, that grit, that self-leadership, it all starts in the mind. So don't take your mindset lightly. Treat it like your most valuable asset, because it is. Feed it, challenge it, sharpen it. Because no matter what happens in your life or your business, if your mind is strong, you'll always find a way forward. Everything else can be taken from you, but if your mind is trained, you can rebuild it all stronger, wiser, and master than before.